Hello, this is Walter Fauntleroy, Sam Owens from Tyler Perry's The Oval, and you're tuned into Suave Session.
So where did you grow up? What was childhood like? Let's start kind of there.
Yeah, well, I grew up all over. I'm a vagabond of sorts, but I was a military brat, man. My dad, he got out of the military and he re-enlisted. So
Mhm.
as fate would have it, he was stuck in Wichita, Kansas at the time, and he went to a party with a friend of his that lived in Dallas. So my dad's originally from Philadelphia. So when he was
Okay.
in Wichita, Kansas, stuck, they came to Dallas for this because the guy was from Dallas. Then they got stuck because of the snowstorm in Wichita, Kansas. Well, he met my mother, and
Wow.
that's how my parents found love. They've been married 50 years, where they met my mother, they got married not too long afterwards, and then me and my brother were here. But check this, my dad was in the war in Vietnam before. So, and then he was also a track athlete, a huge track athlete in college. I mean, I think he qualified for the Olympic trials back then. He was pretty good, but he went from not being able to walk to being paralyzed in a year because he went to Vietnam and got caught up in an explosion and was blown up. So before I was
Oh,
born, right, and he went from 67, he went from being able to walk, this world class athlete, to not being able to walk at all, let alone run. You know what I'm saying? Told he
wow.
would never have kids. Told he never walk again. You see what I'm saying? And then about a year later, a miracle happened, thank God, and everything kind of came back. And then me and my brother were here. So then, years later, of course, I was born, of course, in Philadelphia. My dad re-enlisted. We started traveling the world. So I grew up. My first base initially was in Japan, Naha Kadena. Came back to the world. Lived in Jersey for years. Traveled. I lived in Texas before. I live in LA now, so I lived in Texas before I moved here. I lived in Europe, so I used to play ball, wrestle in Europe during my high school years. And so that was pretty much my life growing up. I saw the world. The world became much smaller to me from the very beginning. I grew up. I had a crush on a little Japanese girl in kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I saw the world a lot differently from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I'm always intrigued by people who were like military kids that got to like travel all over the place. Um, how was that? I guess as a kid, turn this off.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that fan was on. Okay.
Mhm.
I guess as a kid, what was it like kind of having those experiences, or was that just did it seem normal to you because that's kind of like how you were growing up?
Yeah, it was normal. I think like I didn't have really a choice, and my dad was the kind of military man, and maybe he had a little help in the spirit on his side because he was the kind of military man when he was like, if my family's not going, I don't care, I'm not going.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And so somehow we were always able to travel with him. He never left us behind. We were always together as a family. And
Hmm.
so for me, it was just an adventure.
Yeah.
But I was always looking for that silver lining for me in terms of where I fit. I think that was the main thing, and I still kind of deal with that now because I think maybe I have some I don't every 3 years you have to move, so I don't want to say attachment
Yeah.
kind of issues, but I've always kind of allowed myself a little buffer even with me. And so it kind of stands in the way now because,
Hmm.
in 3 years growing up, habit is a mother, so it's like the chains of habit are often too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. So now that I'm trying to break that habit, it's hard because it's become part of me. So like if I meet somebody initially, it's all that military, that kind of vibe, get close, but can't get too close. Why? Because this
Hmm.
relationship is gonna be over in a few years. And I might know you a year and then you might be gone. I'm here 3 years, but you might have already been here too. You might be leaving in
Yeah.
6 months. So it's always that thing that's kind of like right there in the background. You know what I'm saying? So it's like with people, I have to constantly try to manage my emotional self and as well as that kind of military upbringing. You see what I'm saying? So it's always that balance I'm trying to find.
Did that switch back a little bit? So when you're doing that and you're doing all the traveling, because I know you were into sports.
Yeah.
How was that working? Like, I guess, again, you get on a team, you're there for a couple of years, and you gotta split and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
How did that work? I guess, like, building the athletic side of who you were.
Well, I think on many levels, it made me more competitive. Simply because you didn't have, like, when I played sports all my life, but I didn't find my kind of mojo until I started playing football. I wasn't really good at many things. Like, my brother was great at baseball. I mean, I think my brother could have made the major leagues. He just quit. You know, he got discouraged. You know, from some of the prejudices that he had to deal with, especially in the South. And then, but football kind of opened the door for me along the way. And then as I started to get older, like, I had a lot of opportunity that started to present itself very early from junior high on up. But as I started getting into high school years, that's when my dad's career was on the downside. So I was in Germany, so I played at Bitburg High School in Germany. And then we moved back to the world. But then we moved to Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? And then after Phoenix, we were only there a year. You know what I'm saying? And then we moved again. And so it's like, I couldn't really, after the move, it was kind of hard those last 2 years to fall in line with that. But the dream was still there and the opportunity still presented itself. I just think that I didn't choose it. If I would have chosen it, I would have been a successful football player. I just didn't choose it. You know what I'm saying? I think I got discouraged and I started looking to a lot of the situation, my environment, things around me, trying to acquiesce my way through that. My past isn't so, pristine. I'm not proud of it. I have caught cases. I've had records that's been expunged. My high school counselor told me I'd be dead or in prison by the time I was 20. You see what I'm saying? This is stuff that teachers and people are telling us, you know what I'm saying? But my mind was strong and understanding, well, you don't know me. I'm not from here. I'm from all over. I know life. I know culture. I know how to communicate. I know this is 10 to 15% of communication. There's a whole lot of entities that in ways in how we communicate that I can read, even when you're telling me this. You know what I'm saying? So I push back sometimes without pushing back. Well, I'll literally push back. But I think that the lessons of growing up, always having to adapt, getting these things in my mind where I'm like, champions adapt. You know what I'm saying? If you got a rope a dope them, I don't have to always float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You're gonna find a way to win and to adapt to my environment and to shine in my environment. I think that's what the military really helped me do. But in terms of sports, those final 4 years, not being able to play like I wanted to, I think it made me angry, right? And so kind of resentful, but it was unspoken. And so it started to come out if I could play sports, I could put it on the football field. But if I didn't have that, now it's coming out in other areas. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't have wrestling, so I couldn't use that as a vehicle or as a conduit to release that frustration. I did start to lift weights a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't have that escape. So I guess maybe the weights became that, after high school, and it kind of helped open the door for me too, the weights a little bit. But that was the frustrating part.
Yeah. When did acting come into your picture?
From the beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same with God in the beginning. We know what it is, right? In the beginning, man. Yeah. I was a little kid. We were on a military base at I think Naha, Kadena, Japan, and there was this military show on TV, like Sesame Street, and it was base programming on military TV, and I would watch it with my brother all the time. And there was kids on there, and the kids would be on there sometimes. Little kids, kind of like elementary school kids, but like they on this bleacher set, like we're taking pictures in elementary, right? So it's a little bleacher set. And the guy goes around, "Hi, what's your name? My name is Timmy. Hi, what's your name? My name is Don. My name is Betty." And sometimes you get to a kid and they just freeze. "What's your name?" They wouldn't say anything, right? And I'm like, man, what's wrong with those kids? I'm like 4, man, 5. I'm like, man, what's wrong with
Yeah.
those kids? If I was on the show, I would never do that, because I was like, you're on TV, right? I get on the show.
Right.
My dad gets us on the show. My dad somehow gets us on the show. My brother and I go on there. My brother's a year and 2 weeks older. So he gets on there and they go around, what's your name? Timmy. My name is Don, whatever, right? Get around my brother. My name is Reggie. Right next to me. Hi, what's your name? I froze, man. God, I froze, man. I got so scared. I was like, wow. And I never forgot that. It's almost like it's a lesson, judge not, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, this
Yeah.
thing came around for me. But it haunted me. But I knew from a little kid, I think I always wanted to be on TV. It was like intuitive. And then when I was about 8 or 9, my dad in the military, there was a show called Tops and Blues. And so they used to have Lester, the guy, Willie and Lester with the dummy, like the black guy. I don't know if you remember him. He came
Yeah.
on base. I saw him. I loved that. But then the next year, I think my dad was in the show singing. And then he did the Dr. Martin Luther King speech, I Have a Dream. This was like in 82 or 83. At that time, no one was really doing the speech as well as my dad. My dad did the speech very, very well. And I didn't know at the time, but I knew it because it became a big deal. Like they want to do this march. Dr. King's son, Martin Luther King III, was supposed to come in. Coretta Scott King was supposed to come in to hear my dad do this speech. I mean, it got this much attention in New Jersey, and McGuire Air Force Base. Last minute, I think Mrs. Scott had something come up, so she had to drop out. But Martin Luther King III came. And so you got to imagine, we're on this military base. You have the military processionals. You have Martin Luther King III coming down by himself. My dad's doing the speech, and he comes down. I get to meet him and shake his hand. It's a big deal. When he was supposed to do this march, my dad did the speech, incredible. Martin Luther King III thought it was phenomenal. But then we started getting death threats. We're supposed to do a march. We started getting death threats in 82, 83, man. People, even in New Jersey, did not want this march to happen, man. It was crazy. Martin Luther King III, my dad still wanted to do it. Martin Luther King III thought it was not a good idea just because for safety reasons. And that's the only reason why we didn't do the march. That's 82, 83. But these are the things that kind of gave me, was the impetus or the steps. My Aunt Doris sung opera. I got a cousin who's biracial, half black, half German. She's Philadelphia. She's from Philadelphia, my Aunt Doris, my great aunt. But she sung in Europe during that period where she couldn't work here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she had to go to Europe to find work. And so she sung opera all over Europe. I had these memories. My grandmother, Eleanor, would sing for the mayor, Wilson Good, and all these people in Philadelphia. So I always kind of had entertainment and show business around me. I just was always scared to really enter in. I didn't really enter in until I got older, and frustrated in my career.
Yeah. So what was your career before you went full-fledged?
I was a network administrator. I was with GTE Verizon during the whole Pac Bell merger with GTE, the big two conglomerates. So before it became Verizon, so I went through that. I was I went through the Y2K. I went through all that, man. And so that life was good for me for years. It wasn't a bad life. I was a network administrator in the network operations center at the DFW airport in Texas, where it was a great cush job. I had 8 days. I worked 8 days. I was off 6, but I worked nights. The last day was basically I took off. The guy covered my shift. I covered his. So basically, I was on salary. I worked about 28 to 32 hours a week, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Kick back. The systems take care of themselves. You fix them. Brought my PlayStation to work some days. You know what I'm saying? It was cush, easy. I could have stayed in that life, but I got in that life. I was looking at my kids, always playing with them. I had 2 at the time. And I was like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? And after a while, it started to echo and resonate with me because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm trying to encourage them to do something that, even though I'm safe and comfortable, I'm really not doing what I want to do. It's a great, secure, easy, comfortable job, but it's fabulous. I mean, it's a great life. Who would give this back? But I'm like, not what I want. So that football was there hunting. I was like, what are the 2 things that you wanted to do that you never got to do, like you wanted to? And it was like, on those lonely nights working, like something was speaking. It was just like, football, I can't do that anymore. Now I'm about 27, 28. And I was like, man, well, if I could just act at the regional theater up the street, I think I'll be happy, because I started to meet some people and all they did was theater. And I was like, man, you mean this is all you do full time, all the time? And I had this great job, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, man, if I could do this like you, so it wasn't like a hating thing. It was like, man, this is a motivating thing. Someone else might see it and be like, I want to do that, but since I'm not, I hate on you. You know what I'm saying? But like for me, it's just like, well, if you're doing that, even though I had this great job, if you're doing that, that motivates me. Now, so I took the steps, and then the things started opening up, and the job was like, hey, what you gonna do? Because we were touring. I was doing stuff in New York, summer stage, but I lived in Texas. We were touring. We were going to Europe. I was doing stuff in. We did a show called Blind Lemon Blues in Europe, in Geneva, Switzerland, and Paris, France. We did that a few times, and so I started to get to the point where I was like, I don't want to be on that job. I want to travel the world again. And this reminds me of my youth, how I grew up, traveling the world, being overseas, being in New York, all over the place. So I was like, I'd rather have this for nothing, even if I made peanuts. My wife was very supportive, and I was just like, I'm taking a leap of faith. So I left.
And that's challenging, I would assume, as a parent, because you're taking away, again, that one thing that's stable, and you're saying, I'm gonna leave this, take this risk to attempt to like fulfill this dream.
Yeah,
it may or may not work.
Yeah.
How scary is that as a parent, knowing that you're about to take this leap? Again, that just may or may not pan out.
Well, I think for me, it was extremely scary. I mean, it took everything in me to weigh it. I mean, I had to weigh it 3 months. You gotta understand, after I left my job, 13 days later, my wife and I found out we were having our youngest son. So I was like, oh no, what did I do? Oh my God. But I had to remember that mantra, in a sense, it's not, you guys aren't gonna, where I come from, wannabes weren't cool. So when I started realizing I'm projecting this into, no, you're not, it ain't about what you want to be. I don't want you guys to be want to be. What are you gonna be? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So since I'm not doing that, it's even though I'm scared. Now I don't like to fight. Well, I had to fight a lot growing up. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not afraid to be hit. So I'm not afraid to hit. I don't want to. I don't want to be hit, but I'm not afraid of it. So I'm not afraid to take the hits. This was just a big opponent. This was a Goliath. That's like, okay, what's real? Is it the thing out there that's kind of resonating this thing to make me push against what's really true, Rashad? What's true? The thing that's true is the thing that's in me that I feel. You're not going to be wannabes. You're going to be. And how can I make that happen? As scared as I am, how can I make that happen? I got to get out there myself. I got to fight for you. I got to leave this job and fight that opponent that's trying to keep me on the sideline. Because what kept me on the sideline before? Moving. I couldn't get on the football field because we were moving all the time, military. I'm not about to run from this. Now when I'm right here and it's in my face, if I get beat, I'm going to beat back. I don't care. We're going to respect each other after this, but I'm going to at least go for it so they can have it. So it wasn't about me. It was about we in the beginning. It had to be about we. It couldn't have just been about myself. The dream was bigger than me. And then there was faith behind it. So I understand that the job was great and it was providing money, but it was just a provision. It was not the provider. It was not the source. It was not the electricity. I can't look at the computer like this is the power. No, it's coming from the wall. There was the power in me that I understood that was speaking to me, and it was wanting to see. Am I ready? The Red Seas are churning. Are you scared? Are you going to cross over? You going to keep wandering in the wilderness? And I was like, well, my promise is there on the other side. And only thing that's going to get me there is faith. This law, this promise, this thing has kind of led me here to the promise. But the thing that will get me over there is faith. And the only way I can do that is to step out of the boat. So I literally said, Lord, if it be you, bid me to come, right? And I felt like if you step out of the boat, you're going to walk on the water. And all I got to do is just keep my eye on the promise, not on the wilderness. Why? Because the wilderness is for the wanderers. But if I want to get to where I want to go, I got to keep my eye on the promise. And the promise is here. It's in me. It's the thing that I see. That's the port of my destination. It's like when I was going to Paris. Once I got on the plane and booked the flight, I couldn't change the plans once I was in the air. I land, then I can make different provisions and different, set another destination. But I can't change it until I land. And my port was, you're gonna be, and I'm gonna lead the way. You see what I'm saying? And if it takes everything in me, not selfishly, but selflessly, not just for me, but for we, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
So the fear was there, but the faith was greater. You see what I'm saying? The fear is always there.
The fear is always there.
Yeah.
And it's you hear people say like you can't operate in fear, and it's like that sounds great, but it's like big decisions are scary decisions, and
That's
you
right.
can you have faith that you're going to get through them, but it's like it's still that's a scary situation, and it's like when you know you're about to like uproot and completely throw things in disarray because you know that this thing is something that you have to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, again, a lot of people at that point, they can't do it. It's just it stops. It's like that's too much. I can't do this. Overcoming that is huge. So you have faith. You walk out, step out in this boat. You're on the water. You're going towards it. When the failures start,
Yeah.
what kept you going? Because now again, like you're talking about there's another kid coming and you're doing this thing, and like most actors, it doesn't just jump in and then everything is just success.
That's right.
So like now when you're approaching these things and you're getting the no's, the rejections, the failures, how do you keep going without saying, okay, let me scale back and go back and take care of this family?
I'm out front. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here. I have to take the hits. I'm not, like I said, I'm not afraid to take the hits. Once I'm out there, it's like, I don't quit. That's just how I'm built. I just, once I start and my mind is made up, I just won't stop. Simply because it's not about me, it's we. And I rely on that power. I rely on my word. Like growing up, word is born, word is bond. All that stuff was the mantras that we said.
Yeah.
And I was always keen on honoring my word. You know what I'm saying? Like my word says, Walt, you're gonna be an A-list actor. You see what I'm saying? That's my word. That's not changing. So that's the standard. Now, society might try to push back and hold against that. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna find a way through. It might be when I'm 77, Walter wins an Oscar. Doesn't matter, right? Because it's out front. It's out front. That's the port of destination. I got many ports. I'm not gonna hit that one first. That's not gonna be next, more than likely. But it's on my map. You see what I'm saying? So when I got here, it was like everyone was already telling me, even when I was successful as an actor in Dallas. So I got to the point where I left Verizon and then I started acting, nothing else. I was just acting for 4 or 5 years there before I moved here. And so there was an opportunity for me to come here years prior because I got a contact to Fox and Robert Townsend. He was doing this search. And I was a needle in a haystack. I was like, wow, so that gave me faith. That gave me hope. I was like, so then they would contact me, stayed in contact with me 3-4 years. And so finally I was like, okay, I'm here. And they were like, oh, but that's going away. Sorry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I did was, it's little lessons that I got in my life. It was like, I remember seeing Shaka Zulu. I don't remember the entire movie growing up, but I remember the part where he hit the shore and he burned the boats. I remember that. You know what I'm saying? My dad used to have fish growing up, and I'd be like, wow, the fish were this size in this tank, and you got a bigger tank. How'd they grow bigger, Dad? They were so small. Or the plant stopped growing in a small pot. And he was like, well, son, if you want to keep growing, because it's going to die here, you have to take some of that old soil, mix it with this new soil in this bigger pot, and now the plant will continue to flourish. So I knew my pot had gotten too small for Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And even though everyone was saying, I wouldn't uproot my family. And these were successful actors that I knew. They were saying, man, that's tough, man. I wouldn't uproot my family. I know some actors today that's extremely successful still in Dallas. They were lucky. You know what I'm saying? And they're doing very well. And then big time movies and all that. I just could see that happening for me. It just wasn't going to happen for me that way. It was a glass ceiling. I could feel it. I'm auditioning for stuff, man. And I'm auditioning. My audition is better than the person when I see the movie that's acting in it. And I'm like, how come I didn't get an opportunity? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, it's this glass ceiling. You know what I'm saying? So even though there was people that thought I would fail, even though I know there's people that were scared for me and didn't believe, I think the main thing that you have to have is belief in yourself and be willing to take the hits. Because you got to know the hits are going to come. You can't think, I want to get in the water but not get wet. That's ludicrous. You have to get wet. You got to get in the game. You got to take the hits. And like I said, when it's bigger than you and it's not just about you, when you're not just fighting for you, when you have something to fight for, it keeps you in the fight. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm thankful for Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm thankful for Muhammad Ali and all these and Tysons or whoever, all these great people out there that encourage Michael Jordans that encourage that fire in me, to say, I just am not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to figure it out. Not for me, but for we. Not even just my family, for someone like Rashad, you know what I'm saying? For whomever out there that needs a message that says, listen, life is always pulling us upward. Like when you plant a seed, guess what it does? It dies under there, but then it starts growing. So that's what you have to do. When you plant a seed in terms of what you want, you have to die and then allow that thing to start growing out of you, but you growing with it. But life is always expanding. Once that seed dies down there, it doesn't grow downward. Only thing it grows downward for the roots to establish its foundation. But then life is pulling you upward. Yeah. And as long as we're reaching upward, I found in my life, through experience, as long as I continue to reach upward, guess what? Somehow, even when it seems like you're about to sink, something will catch your hand. But if I'm aiming downward, guess what? That momentum will pull you down. It will pull faster than you know. Yeah. It's harder to go up than to go down. But once you go up, you can go down. But then you know how to go back up. But if you don't know how to go up, most people won't go up. But you have to look past the fear and look to the truth. The truth is what you really feel. It's like saying, I'm going to try that new job. I'm going to take this. I'm going to make that film. I'm going to go get my degree. Right? Those are all the things that kept me from going to get my degree, going to play football, going to do these things. It's fear. But once I started moving in the full faith, of belief, that those doors open too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you get to the Oval.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of people on Tyler Perry sets.
Yeah.
They say it's basically like acting boot camp, even for established actors. If you can get through a Tyler Perry show, there's nothing that you can't do in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. How was it for you going from where your career was at to stepping into the studio with Tyler Perry and being a part of the Oval cast?
It was a whole nother beast. We did I was in the Madea Farewell Tour with him, which was a stage play musical. We did that rehearsal in 11 days. I'd never rehearsed like that. So it was all new to me. I had never done what they call the urban chitlin circuit. I had never done that. And so that was new to me. But I think the lessons that I learned in theater kind of helped me, guide me through that. When I first started with Tyler, after I got the Madea Farewell Tour, they brought me in immediately. I got home after the Madea Farewell Tour audition on an early Friday morning. Because they flew us out Wednesday night to audition in Atlanta, all day there. And then we flew back that same Thursday night. And I got back to LA about basically early Friday morning. That same Friday I got back around 11 o'clock, I got to rush over to Kim Coleman casting for a film, A Fall from Grace, with Brescia Webb, Cicely Tyson, Miss Felicia Rashad, Miss Crystal Fox. And I get cast in that. So then I just met Tyler Thursday, and I'm back in Atlanta Tuesday to film this movie right before Christmas. 5 days we shot that movie. I'm like, he shot a whole movie in 5 days. So that was my first taste. Then we do the Madea Farewell Tour. We're on the tour. Tyler says, hey, listen, I got this for you, man. It's this thing, this idea. I was thinking the Oval and all this. He starts telling me about all this stuff. And so he's like, I want to bring you with me. We need to get out on the road and all this kind of stuff. I was like, okay, cool. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I'm trying to just remain professional the best I can. We do the tour. We come back. We do Tyler, the show. They bring me in. They say, listen, Walt, it's fast, but it's not like the kind of fast you think. I know you did the movie, but this is a whole nother thing. It's a series. And when we started, when I tell you, I had no clue, because with the movie, I have 8 lines maybe, right? For the show, all this dialogue. So we shoot over 100 pages. I think we averaged season 1, we had 25 episodes. Season 1, season 2, basically up, except season 4, I think was kind of like where it backed off some. We shot at least about 120 pages a day. That's a lot of pages, man. And
This is a lot of pages.
You're going, everything is all over. So you might do episode, let's say 101, 113, 121, go back to 108. So you always got to know where you are. You know what I'm saying? I think theater helped me with that because I just won't quit if I have to stay up all night. You know what I'm saying? You know, I just stay, you just got to stay in it because by the time you get there, I remember one time in season 3, I was like, what are we doing today? What are we doing? He was like, we're going to do this. Okay, y'all ready? And then like, I tried, I was like, Alonzo, what is this? Because I was like, we're not supposed to shoot this here. We were shooting this somewhere else before. And it's like what's the line? What's the line? And then and action. I literally turn around and I'm looking like this. We're in the command center and I'm looking like this in the scene. And he says his line, and then I remember, oh, that's the line. And I remember my response, just for muscle memory. But otherwise, I didn't know where I was. When I heard it, my mind clicked and I remembered. But when you see the show, you don't even realize it. I had no idea where I was before that scene started. But that's how it goes sometimes. It's just so fast, and you kind of find it, you know, and you basically get the one take, and Tyler's like, okay, we're moving on. Let's do this. Okay. I'm like, oh, I hope that was good. But you're always kind of like on pins and needles. It's fast, so fast.
So it's crazy. One, I didn't know that you guys like I guess the thought process as a viewer is that you just shoot that episode. So you're shooting that episode and then you just shoot the next episode, you shoot the next. So we're thinking like you're not jumping from like episode 1 to episode 5 to episode 3, episode 17. Like we don't know that. So the amount of the amount of script that you have to have memorized and know where you're jumping to,
what's happening next,
and then have that like,
it's a lot. Like
I'll be in
the moment before, where you going, all that. Listen, when I shot A Fall from Grace, after I shot the first day, and I just had a few lines that first day. I remember I went back to I was like, oh God. I went back to my hotel room because everything is on the line, right? This is poker. This is high stakes poker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In a sense. And I'm like, oh man, I thought I didn't do a good job. You know, it's my first time working with Tyler Perry. I dreamt of this my entire life, not realizing that this isn't typically the standard everywhere, and everything is so fast. I went back to my hotel room that night, my first time in Atlanta, and cried, man. I literally was in the closet crying at the Georgian Hotel. Listen, man, and I got in the car, because they had a driver for us to take us to the set every day. So I got in the car the next morning, cool, fresh, you know, new day. Okay, got it. Let's get back in there and learn from yesterday. On the ride over there, the lady says, so how is everything? He was like, oh, well, you know, it's cool. You know, it's a great day. I'm feeling pretty good today. You know, she was like, oh, that's great. She was like, you know, we get a lot of, she said, I don't know you. She said, you seem young and new, but I've had some stars, some big time stars that done his movies, and they get in the car and they're wrecked the next day. They tell me they broke down crying and all this. I'm like, are you serious? It made me feel good, you know, that
like it's not just me.
Stars, right? Yeah, they're going through it, you know. So I'm like, oh God, I'm not alone on this island.
It's crazy. So it's doing this show, doing the Oval, because you're basically like doing this show in the midst of all the things that are really happening in Washington.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're emulating this real life kind of setup that's happening in front of our eyes on a daily basis, are there things that you all want to make sure that go into the show that address like the real things that are happening and like bring that attention to like this real life situation that's our government basically?
Oh yeah, I think the main reason why Tyler wrote this was at the time because of the last administration. You know what I'm saying? And so he was really I think gearing, you know, that kind of rhetoric towards that, you know. And now I think he's just kind of exploring some other ideas. I think if that happens, especially the way things are, you know, talking and maybe kind of looking, perhaps it would start to point more towards that the administration again, which I really, really like. I think he's listening to some of the blogs or some of the things that the fans are interested in as well. I think
Mhm.
some of that writing is coming into play too, because even this season, you don't see as much as the president and the first lady so much, in terms of what we had earlier, and that
Yeah,
kind of dynamic in the White House. I think he's kind of expanding this some so we can get ourselves outside the White House some to open the storylines up some more, and then we always
yeah,
can go home, But I think he's always thinking in terms of what's happening, current events and stuff like that.
yeah. And Taja she plays your wife on the show.
Yeah.
And when I did her interview, we talked about just, I guess, like the chemistry that happens. And because everything is so fast paced, you all become like real life friends
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a frat because you're
Yeah.
all like in this together. We're struggling together. We're crying together. Like, what's our lines? Like
Right.
everyone's going through this together.
Right.
When you build these friendships with your castmates, what is that like? How does that help bring that genuine kind of feel back on set afterwards?
I think it's excellent. What I kind of dislike is the fact that we're not around each other more. You know what I'm saying? Because we're basically there in less than 2 weeks, or right around 2 weeks, and then we're out. And so
Yeah,
for me, and that, like I said, that whole military thing, it doesn't seem to always give me enough time. It gives me enough, you know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't take me long, in a day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I kind of pretty much have a feel, you know what I'm
hmm,
saying? So I can connect to those things. But
yeah,
I sometimes do wish I had more time, with my other fellow actors, just to be around more, because typically when I'm there, I'm buried in work. You know what I'm saying? We
yeah,
joke and cut up and have a good time, but I'm like, listen, I can't hang out like that, guys. I'm older. I got to really buckle down and lock in.
yeah,
Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to keep it together. But that's the
yeah,
only thing that I kind of wish we had more time. Like on a traditional set where you have those months together and you can build that family unit. But we do still get together. We get time to hang out. When we were doing, especially Camp Quarantine for those 2 seasons, that was amazing
yeah,
because it really was. I mean, it was like, man, we're in here together, and so that was
yeah,
very special. But the familiarity that we have with each other, especially on screen, when we get there, it makes it just easy. It makes it comfortable. It lets you know you can trust your fellow actor. Taj is always great, hard work, and super talented. It's like there's a lot of actors on there. You just know, okay, I have nothing to worry about. I can just trust
yeah,
this because we've been through it a little bit, and let's just jam. So that's the wonderful part.
yeah. And speaking of Camp Quarantine, like a lot of people don't realize that like Tyler Perry's sets and houses are like fully functioning like houses
Mm-hmm.
with like
That's
there's
right.
real running water, there's real electricity. So when they said
That's
like
right.
everyone was just living on set, we was like, how?
Right.
And it's
It's
like,
a
oh,
base.
this
It's a
is
former
a real
military
house.
base. Yeah,
Right.
it's a
Like
former
this is
military base, so they stay all that stuff.
yeah, like this is a serious setup. Um what was what was the to be in this season, what was the hardest scene that you've had to shoot while being on the Oval? What was the most challenging one for you?
Oh, no doubt. Was the first lady in the yellow room. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I was stressed out, man. I think this season the hospital scene felt hard. I think because I was like, I'll get to those later. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
when I'm trying to
yeah,
learn it, I'm like, okay, the hospital, that's on day 8, maybe day 7, because he might flip and go, okay, we're gonna shoot this. So okay, so around day 7 or day 8, I can get to that. Let me focus on this. So that might have been hard. But the first lady, you can't prepare for that. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's really no dialogue. There's a little dialogue leading up, but then you're in it. So my thought was, how's it gonna be shot? What's it gonna be? Oh my God. I remember the first season when we did this and I was naked. I was like, trying to figure it out. What's it gonna be? And
hmm,
I was stressing so much, man. I ended up, I think, having a panic attack because they had to get the medic and all that stuff for me. I was having chest pain. I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm serious. And so Tyler come in, I'm dealing with the medic. He's like, "You okay? You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute, coach. I'll be right there." Because I didn't want him to see me sweat, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I can go. Listen to me, I can go. So literally, when we did that scene, it felt like I had a ice pick going through my heart, in my chest. But
Wow.
so that's probably explained the faces. But I said the faces probably work in my mind for what it would be, because he's just not really trying to make love to her. He's just trying to just get this thing out. He's burning.
Right.
And so it ended up working, I think, on some level. But when we did the scene where we're outside in the cold and I'm running back with all that stuff from that season, chest pain. I'm trying to play it off. I'm like, this stuff is still bothering me, but I don't want him to see it, and to keep the scene because he's ready to roll. So let me just get back in the game. I'm not injured. I'm just a little hurt. So let me get back out there.
Yeah. All right. So I guess because we all know, like, at some point the Opal's gonna end.
Yeah.
What else are you working on? What do you want to work on? What's like a dream project for you?
Well, coming up, I'm supposed to do this short film project about a vampire. I play this guy named Slade who's in a relationship, this toxic relationship where he's a vampire and his family isn't. It's part of the story, right? But he's trying to convert them and all this kind of stuff slowly but surely, just so he won't be alone and he'll be a family. So I'm working on something like that right now. Coming up this weekend, we got to finish off some of that stuff. I get that done with this great writer and producer and director named Jeannie Joe. I can't think of Jeannie Joe's last name right now, but when I get the information, I will share it, which I'm really excited about. But moving forward, man, I wanna get more into film and stuff like that, man. I do believe I'm a leading man, at least a lead supporting. I've been working on my craft a very long time. And I just believe I want to play with the best. It's not just about just being an actor. It's like, okay, I want to be able to play at the highest level. When I had a dream of playing football, that was that. Anything I want to do, I want to do at the highest level. So, you want to be able to not compete, but you want to have people that'll challenge you. You know what I'm saying? And expand your craft. So, like, I always had dreams of working with Samuel L. Jackson. I even got a wallet that says "Bad Mother" on it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't gonna say that out loud. Like in Pulp Fiction, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, all the greats, man, like Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep, all these wonderful people, Steven Spielberg, Ron Howard, Spike Lee, whoever, more Tyler Perry. Let's get it going. Just keep it going, Tyler. I mean, everybody, man, that's dreaming big and wanting to achieve big things. BT is excellent for me. I'm grateful for them. I hope we're always family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, I think like anybody, we always want to climb. Tyler got $1 billion. I'm sure he wants 2. Then when it's 2, you want 4.
Absolutely.
I've had opportunities of meeting some wonderful people around Tyler Perry, Miss Cicely Tyson, Whoopi Goldberg, Jay-Z, Ho. You know what I'm saying? Beyonce. Mm-hmm. And so when you're around those kind of elements, and you start to get a taste of it on some level, and something resonated in me. It's like, oh wow, okay, this is something to aspire higher to. This thing, let me not just stop here. Let me not just go to Jackson State and stop. Let me keep going on to Colorado. Not to say that what he did in Jackson State wasn't good, in terms of Deion Sanders, someone else who I've always admired. You know what I'm saying? Deion Sanders. But there's a mindset that says, listen, I respect you, but I respect myself too, and I'm gonna go as far as this thing can take me. And his dream might be the NFL. You might not see that, but that's his goal. He might be thinking this is to help my kids to get here. I don't know. But the goal is out there. So of course the standard is always high. I want to work with the best. I want to be one of the best. Not just playing. I'm trying to get the most everything I can out of me to serve her.